What's up, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Real quick, just want to apologize. I wish I was doing this fight live. Work late hours sometimes, so I was able to see the fight. Just wasn't home watching it. So, I would have loved to be live doing this, covering this fight, covering this card. It was a decent card. I believe Fox had a card with Lara as well. I did watch just a little bit of the Lara fight, but as far as this fight here. Didn't wasn't even able to do a prediction video. Been a very busy week for me. Plus, it was a very hard one to pick. I've been back and forth all week trying to decide on who was going to win this fight here. Just wasn't too sure. My history with Jose Ramirez fights hasn't really been great. I didn't cover, but I think I did a prediction video for Amir Imam and Jose Ramirez back when they fought. I did go to that fight that night here in Madison Square Garden. I actually thought Amir Imam was going to pull it off, and he started well, but Jose definitely impressed me with that fight. He came back strong, and he closed the fight out pretty good. And then Maurice Hooker. I don't know if you guys remember that prediction video I did. I actually thought Hook. I actually went with Ramirez, and then I switched to Hooker before the fight as my final prediction. I was wrong there. So those are two predictions I was wrong. It's not because I don't think Jose is good. I do think he's good. I like him. I think he's a good guy, very respectful. I like his story and everything like that. It's just that I, I guess I think he's better than what I thought he was in the past. Now, the performance I saw tonight against Viktor Postol was more like, okay, he's a very good fighter, but he has his limitations, all right. And I thought we saw a lot of that tonight. Going into this fight, really wasn't sure. I've been back and forth for a week about it because Victor Postal, I think if he was a little bit younger, a little bit sharper, I think he would have won the fight tonight. Okay, I think I would have picked him. The guy that lost to the Victor Postal that beat Matisse, even the guy that lost to Terrence Crawford, I think would have beaten uh, Jose Ramirez tonight. Okay, and Ramirez has improved. He's definitely improved. I think his best performance was against Maurice Hooker. But going into this fight, I thought that Postal was better than Hooker. Hooker is a guy that tried to fight tall, tried to use his length and height advantage in that fight. It didn't really work out for him because he's not used to really fighting that way. He's like tall for no reason. You know, um, and he tried to fight a rangy fight. It was easy. Ramirez was able to close the distance and be aggressive very early in that fight. All right, and started landing big shots in that fight. But I knew in this fight the difference was that Victor Postol is a great mover. He has great legs. He steps in and out very quickly. He has pretty good defense. Doesn't have the power that a Hooker has or a Ramirez has or anything like that. But I know that Postal was going to be one of those difficult fights for him. All right. Even though I've seen the improvement in Ramirez, still doesn't have the greatest defense. And my issue this because I wanted Ramirez to win because we're already seeing Postal fight Josh Taylor. All right. We already see like Postal is listen, I rate him high. And like I told you, I think on his best day, I think he would have edged the fight out against Ramirez. I think he would have beaten him. This fight was pretty close. It was really close. I want to say like the thing is when I score fights, if it's not like a major fight, but if I'm watching a fight and I'm scoring it a little bit because I was definitely giving Postal the majority of the first half of the rounds. I remember there was a point maybe in the sixth round where Tim Bradley and Andre Ward was going back and forth because Andre Ward had Ramirez up so many rounds in the first half of the fight. And I disagreed with him. I actually agreed with Tim Bradley. I thought that Postal was winning pretty clear halfway through. Okay. Not every round, but I think the majority I had him winning. But it started getting real tricky midway through the fight because I started thinking Ramirez started picking up the pace, landing the bigger shots. I think he hurt him around the seventh round, which was really good. That seventh round, that left hand he landed, great combination, and that big punch he landed. I think he started out with a jab, Then he threw a right hand behind that, and then he threw a left hand that was a big punch that it looked like it was going like he faked to the body and landed up top pretty heavy, and he hurt Postal a little bit. He hurt Postal a couple of times in this fight. Um, so the momentum started changing because it looked like Postal was, his age started to show a little bit, and Ramirez was starting to land more clean, bigger shots. I thought the first half, I think maybe not first half, but maybe the first 4 rounds, 5 rounds or so, Jose Ramirez he looked a little frustrated. He looked like he couldn't really get a rhythm going there. I mean, and which makes sense because I expected Postal to come out stronger. Because he's the older guy, but he's going to be fresh early. He's going to be moving early. He's going to be, you know, rangy and everything like that. Um, but Ramirez started picking up the pace. But there was a point where Postal started to land those right hands behind the jab, and he started to get consistent with that. So it was a lot of back and forth. And then I also thought that Ramirez started ending like the last round or two. I thought Ramirez started coming back. So it was a lot of back and forth. Me personally, I didn't score it all the way through because the rounds got a little bit too either way for me. So once the rounds get like that, I'm just like, now I'm just watching it for entertainment for me. I mean, as far as an actual fight, and I know we're basing it on rounds alone, but actual fight, I just would have thought it was a draw. Neither one really won to me. I knew that if the fight was close, though, I figured that they were going to give it to Ramirez because, again, we already seen Postal fight Josh Taylor. Even though that was a very, very competitive fight, uh, Josh Taylor won the fight. You know, he won the fight. He did better than what Ramirez did in this fight. Josh really won. He was losing early. I thought he was losing early too, but he closed much, much better, hurting, dropping, Postal, everything. He just did better. All right. Whereas Ramirez never really got it going. I think Postal in this fight was more consistent, but I also think Ramirez was landing the bigger shots because he's a bigger puncher, you know. But yeah, go into the Josh Taylor fight. If Josh Taylor fights and wins his next title defense, if they actually unify and for fight for an undisputed fight, I just feel like Jose Ramirez, I think he needs to do better at closing the range with his jab. Like there's times where he just doesn't throw a jab at all, like for long periods, and he's just always leading with a wide left hook, and he's missing. And with a guy that can move as well as Viktor Postol, and then again, Josh Taylor moves pretty well too. He can fight. He's pretty unorthodox. Josh Taylor could fight anyway because Josh Taylor was fighting a more technical fight against Viktor Postol. He was kind of losing a little bit, but once he started getting aggressive and beating, getting on the inside a little bit, making it more close range, mid range, he started winning the fight. Same thing with Regis Prograis. I think when Josh started making it more of an inside fight, I think his inside game is not great, but I think his inside game is underrated. I think he's a more well balanced, more well rounded fighter. Um, so I think Jose, um, he has to learn how to make better use of his jab when he's trying to close the distance instead of just throwing wide power shots. I think he needs to just stop always leading because it starts becoming predictable. Postal saw it coming and he would just move out of the way a lot. He needs to step in with that jab because he was pretty good when he was landing jab, and throw that right hand behind it. Do more of that instead of just leading with just power shots all the time because he's not the fastest puncher. One thing that Jose did improve, and especially in the Maurice Hooker fight, is he started out very strong in that fight. I think he's become a lot quicker in stepping in and out. You know, um, like he did in Maurice Hooker fight. I think in the Jose Cepeda fight, he started out slow in that fight. He just wasn't. Cepeda was better at keeping the distance. I think he was a southpaw. I think he was just landing. He was just controlling the fight a little bit early, but he got a rhythm going, and then Ramirez started coming back a little bit. That was a really close fight too. That was a great fight, by the way. But even in the Amir Imam fight, if you watch that fight, Amir Imam was very good, very slick. You know, landing some powerful shots early, good counter setting traps. But once Ramirez got it going, you know, he started doing pretty well. But when I saw him in the Maurice Hooker fight, you know, he was jumping around. He had a good bounce, stepping in and throwing those combinations, stepping back out. You know, I think he was doing his thing. So I think when he fights Josh Taylor, I just think that he needs to do more with his jab, and I also think that if he's gonna be like a bull, like he reminds me of like Cotto when Cotto was more of aggressive body puncher. He reminds me of Cotto when he fights like that. And we know that Cotto can fight like he has a little slickness to him. You know, he could fight on the outside and work behind his jab and everything, and use his legs and fight laterally and move laterally. I mean, and he could do all that. But when Cotto was a bull and he was fighting younger at 140, you know, when he was young fighting at 147, he was coming in, stepping in a lot, throwing combinations to the body. Ramirez reminds me of like that version of Miguel Cotto. Um, and I think that'll work. I think that'll work. But if he's gonna fight that way, he needs to work on his defense, his head movement, you know, slipping shots. I think he need to work a little bit more on that. If he can get a little bit better at that, he'll be more effective on the inside. He's definitely on the inside, probably a little bit better than Josh Taylor is. Okay, that's definitely gonna be his ace, but I don't think he's that much better. You know, I don't know how much better he is. You know, we'll see when they actually fight, if they actually fight. Hopefully, they do actually fight. But overall, good fight. Victor Postal lost, but I think he still got it. You know, I think he still got it. It's just that with him, you know, he doesn't really impress the judges like that because he's not really. Listen, he has a nice right hand. You know, if he's stopped a couple people, he's knocked people out. But you know, most of the time he's being chased. You know, and it's not really working for him for that. But he's still an elite guy at 140. He's always been a troublesome fighter. Again, I still rate him today probably higher than Maurice Hooker. You know, I still rate him higher and higher than a lot of other guys at 140. You know, I don't even think he's. I mean, he's kind of. I guess he is kind of a gatekeeper after losing tonight. He is kind of a gatekeeper, but he can still pull off a win on some of these younger guys that's coming up. You know, um, but as far as the Josh Taylor fight, man, I still like when it comes to Jose Ramirez, I just don't see him on. I think Josh Taylor reaches pro grade. I think they just at a different level. These are guys that I just think that would do well at 147. You know, um, I don't see Ramirez really being that much of a factor at 147 like that. You know, I think he's done well. He's done more than what I expected from him. The fact that he's unified, great accomplishment. You know, I'm not trying to diss him, but he's over exceeded my expectations. But I think he's peaked out as far as like, all right, how far are we gonna really go? Can he beat a guy like a Josh Taylor or Regis Program? I don't really know. I personally believe that if he was in a World Boxing Super Series tournament, I don't think he would have made it to the finals. You know, because you got, you know, Ivan Baranchik there, who's also tough. I know he lost to Josh Taylor, but he's tough. He's tough. You know, I mean, he pulled past he pulled past Postal tonight, but that fight could have easily gone either way. You know, Postal was undefeated. If Postal had a belt, would they have given it to Ramirez? And I'm not saying Ramirez lost, but it could have been a draw. It could have went to Postal. It could have went either way. You know, I don't think it was a robbery, but I just don't think like Ramirez really did enough to win like that. All right, I think it was just it could have gone either way, and I don't think it was a clear win for me. Well, it was a majority of the decision anyway. All right, but I just see I don't know. I think something with Josh Taylor. I think he's a little special. You know, he's just so well rounded. He's so well rounded, and I seen him adjust in fights. Ramirez is what you see is what you get. You know, and if you could figure him out, you could beat him. All right, I think Ramirez. One thing is that I think he, once he gets a good rhythm going, even though we know his style, he can do better. But again, this fight went back and forth. And there's rounds where it's like, wow, I think Postal's winning the first half, but the other half went to Ramirez, and or vice versa. So but he definitely needs to work on his defense. He definitely needs to make more use of his jab. But other than that, I mean, he's solid, man. He's good. All right, good win. All right, so anyway, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.